Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today is the 3rd of March, 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you guys here. Now, listen, something I've been mulling over in my mind this morning. It's been going around in my head. I've been thinking about something that never really occurred to me before that it could ever happen. Let me explain to you what it is. The United States government's in debt to the extreme, and they can never pay that debt back. And that's just the federal debt, not the unfunded liabilities, which is a mountain the size of Mount Everest. The unfunded liabilities, like Social Security and Medicare. Now taking a look at 42 million Americans who are over 65. And then we've got this encroaching disease that's come from Asia. The Chinese have got a hold on it. They got a handle on it. But we could never do what the Chinese have done in the Western world. We could never do that. That's just to get a handle on the disease. We could never do that. It's unthinkable to do what the Chinese did. And so where are we? We're kind of like in between a rock, what's called a rock and a hard place. We don't really have any much alternatives here. The thing's starting to spread in America. And I heard a report this morning on the media, mainstream media from Great Britain and United Kingdom, and they said that the report said 1 out of 5 workers could be ill in the very near future. Well, I think that's a rosy estimate, to tell you the truth, because, the way this thing spreads around and everything, reporting in sick is probably going to be more than 1/5 of the workers, because how are the other 4 out of 5 going to avoid the thing, and are you really able to work when you got this? Even probably a mild case of it, you're probably looking at people being off for weeks. They're sick. Even with a mild case of it, they're sick for probably 3 weeks or a month. And I got thinking about all of this, how this thing is coming in to strike America and what it might do. And I got thinking about the debt. If it has a very profound, if 2 things happen at the same time, you remember I did that article on what if the 2 trains come together? One train being this virus, and the other train being the economy crashing. Because it was ready to crash. It was going to crash probably in 2021 anyway, all on its own, but this is kind of pushing it over the edge a little bit quicker. So picture the economy crashes massively, okay? The government, in order to pay this debt, they need to collect taxes. And you can't collect taxes on people who aren't working. The whole thing could crumble apart on them, and they might not even be able to pay the interest owed on their debt. Now, while all this is happening, we got a president in the United States right now who's the absolute master of corporate defaults, corporate bankruptcies. All the way through his life, he's declared bankruptcy on corporations and come out of the whole thing smelling like a rose. So let's not forget his history of running corporations. He's a billionaire, and he made his name by running corporations. And America is actually nothing more than a giant corporation if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of how it's run. It's almost like a corporation. So, I'm putting one thing together with another thing here and lumping it together. The unthinkable would be, and I'll get down to the nitty-gritty of it, would be that America could actually go bankrupt. And what would all of the treasuries be worth? You know, they've been raising the debt ceiling and raising the debt ceiling. They say if they didn't raise the debt ceiling, that America would go bankrupt and the treasuries would be worthless. All of these treasuries. In fact, all of these financial products that are all linked together with the treasuries and everything else, it would not just bankrupt America if America went bankrupt. It would bankrupt the entire world. All of the financial products that are connected to and you know, I already consider this to be a bankrupt entity anyway because they can never repay their debt, and they're getting to the point where they're not even going to be able to pay the interest on their debt. You know, and they got unfunded liabilities amounting that's over $100 trillion high. It's an impossible mountain to climb. You know, if interest rates just tick up a little bit, well, it's almost like a man who's pulled out far more credit cards and got more credit card debt than he can pay back. And what's happening is he's using more credit cards to pay off the other credit cards. You know, eventually it's going to lead to a bankruptcy. No, this is the same kind of situation. So I was just mulling over in my mind this morning, what if? You know? What if the unthinkable were to happen? What if America couldn't pay? They didn't get enough in tax receipts because people are sick and they can't pay they don't have enough taxes coming in to pay, and it's just the whole thing starts to disintegrate into some sort of a reset, a debt restructuring that would involve perhaps I don't know how they would resolve all these treasuries. I mean, billions and billions these guys have been sinking into treasuries. Did they ever think that they never considered a possibility that America could go bankrupt? And I'm just throwing that out there this morning. Listen, okay, let's get into the markets. Enough talk about that. Let's start the charts right here and take a look at what's going on. Silver price, $16.82. It's up 10 cents on the day. And, you know, gold is up $14.40 on the day. So we're seeing a little rebound in the metals right now, which is good, you know, because they were crushed. But they're getting back. They're about halfway back now, you know, and let's see them get back up off the floor. Let's take a look now at cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency stabilized too and starting to move back up a little bit. When we see that Bitcoin dominance dropping, and we do a little bit today, I think it was 64 the other day, now it's 63.7. That's a good sign for crypto, that crypto's stabilizing again. 87.86 as a price for Bitcoin today. Let's move on and take a look at the Dow Jones today. And what we've been seeing the last couple days, we've seen that massive increase in price in the Dow Jones yesterday, which was completely crazyville. But today we're seeing a drop of 221 points. Now this is all volatility in the market, you know, because of the situation that's happening. But I've predicted a more than 2,000 point one-day drop in this market coming up in the very near future. And you know what? I'm going to up the ante right now a little bit. I think we're going to get more than one of those days. More than one, not just one day of a 2,000 point drop, but more than one, multiple 2,000 point day drops. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is that I see a market crash in our near future. You know, because no matter what the Fed does, and this is another reason why I'm starting to look at this option of default and some sort of a reset with the American financial system, some sort of maybe an outright bankruptcy of America and a bankruptcy of the world, you know, and some sort of a structured reset that would come suddenly and would just basically wipe out all of these financial products. It's just they'd be gone because they're all connected in, you know, to the same source, and that source is over leveraged to the moon, and just basically the whole thing just gone overnight. some sort of structured reset, because it just can't continue any longer. And another reason for this is the fact that the Fed's running out of ammunition. They're using up their ammunition early in this whole thing. And what's going to happen later in this whole thing when this thing escalates big time, they're not going to have any ammunition left to fight it with. And what would it take to fight it anyway? I mean, if you get a 2,000 point drop in the market, just in one day, they can lose $10 trillion. Gone. Poof. How can the Fed make up for that? They're getting overstretched is what they're getting, and they got a tiger by the tail with this disease that's spreading. Yeah, China might have got rid of. I'm not sure about that even. I don't even know for sure about that. I mean, how do we really know what's going on in China? And now let's take a look at the oil price today. It's down 98 cents, now up 98 cents on the day, not down, plus 2.1%, 47.73 for sweet light crude. So oil prices going up, stock market's going down, U.S. Treasuries today, and we're seeing rising yields. See, the more these yields rise on treasuries, the more it's harder it is for them to service the debt. I'll tell you, they cannot service the debt if the yields on the 10-year go above 4%. They can't service the debt anymore. I mean, this whole thing's got to the point where they can't afford high yields on the treasuries. They can't afford it. It's as simple as that. So they got to keep these yields down. And if that means another round of quantitative easing, well, that's what it means. But you should never think in terms of they have to or somebody has to. If you got a bunch of workers, say you own a plantation and you got a whole bunch of workers out there, and you say, well, they have to cut those canes down today, those sugar canes down or whatever, a plantation of workers. They don't have to. They can go on strike. Something unusual can happen you never expected out of the blue, and all of a sudden all your workers go on strike and they say, we're not going to do that job today. And they throw down their tools. Well, you never expected that, and that's the way with everything in life. Sometimes things turn out, it can come out of the blue, something you never expected. Let's take a look now at the U.S. dollar index. 97.52 today. And the dollar, she's going along sideways today. Today's a sideways motion day for the U.S. dollar. Okay, listen, thank you guys for listening to this market report. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.